All
right. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll sort of follow along both here and on my computer. So, yeah, before I talk about my presentation today, I'll just give a bit of background information about my dissertation in general and like where this came from. So yeah, as Pippa said, my dissertation dealt with newly invented writing systems, specifically for Indigenous languages, and how they can be successful. And what I mean by successful is successfully designed and successfully disseminated in the community, and then sort of like leading all the way up to technological standardization. So yeah, my dissertation was split into three main chapters: design, dissemination, and institutional acceptance. The design stage and the design stage is more what I've talked about in the past at the WAVE conference. I talked about implementation of visual cultural elements into the design of the actual graphemes in the script. So, and then the next chapter is on dissemination, and I talk about criteria for script adoption. And I have case studies from Arunachal Pradesh in the northeast of India, from the Wancho and Tongsa languages and writing systems. And then I talk about institutional acceptance, both internal and external. And what I mean by internal is like local, state and national governments, education systems, and then external institutional acceptance, such as organizations like Unicode and the ISO, the International Standards Organization. So yeah, this presentation deals really with that last section, institutional acceptance. And I should say as well that the presentation is titled Script Design, Community Needs, and the Path to Unicode, but it's mostly about the path to Unicode. I do talk a bit about design and community needs, but I really have focused on, well, you'll see what it takes to get to Unicode. So yeah, I probably talked about this a bit before, and other people might have as well at the WAVE conference, but I'll just give you a refresher if you're not very familiar with what Unicode is. So Unicode is an international multilingual text character encoding system that was developed in 1987 to address the limitations of other encoding systems like the American system for encoding, and there was the Indic system for encoding, and even like big organizations had their own systems as well. And so you had all these different systems, but none of them were interoperable. So you had a problem with information exchange. And so, yeah, it was created in 1987 to address this. And in 1991, Unicode merged with ISO's Universal Coded Character Set and became the de facto international standard. So Unicode is not part of ISO, but they are work very closely together in this sense. And so in the same year, the Unicode Consortium was founded. So Unicode is the text encoding system and the organization that handles it. So it was founded in 1991, and it included major tech companies like Apple, IBM, and Microsoft. And these are still some of the major voting members today. And now some of the other voting members are organizations like Netflix and Salesforce. So so we can talk about that more lately. I'm not sure if I have a slide about that in this presentation or not, but it's very interesting to look at the organizations that pay the $50,000 a year membership to be voting members. So yeah, I can talk about that more later. So yeah, the first version of Unicode encoded sort of the major world scripts like Latin, Greek, Cyrillic, Arabic, Devanagari, and Chinese, Japanese, Korean. And then version 3 moved on to other scripts like Syriac, Dana, Sinhala, Cherokee, and Mongolian. And then since then, the focus has sort of been on encoding minority and historical scripts. And as of the last Unicode update last year, there were 168 scripts encoded. And the next version, this year's version will come out in September. And I think there are like about 5 new additions. So we can have a look at that later. So yeah, and so in order to talk about Unicode, it's also very important to talk about the script encoding initiative. So the script encoding initiative was founded in 2002 by Debbie Anderson at UC Berkeley, and she's recently retired, and it's directed by Anusha Hossain now. And so it was established to assist minority language scripts in attaining Unicode encoding. And so since its inception, they've helped over 90 scripts to get encoded. There are still more than 150 scripts on their list. They have sort of an internal list of scripts that require further research before submission to Unicode. And so the services that are provided, that SEI provides, are funding and linguistic support for these communities that lack resources to develop the proposal on their own, and yeah, assistance with the script proposals, which are can be quite difficult for these communities. So yeah, they support native language education, literacy, and cultural preservation through this work. They reduce linguistic barriers in technology, and they enable online education, research, and publication for historic scripts. Oh, here. So this is just a bit of background information about what goes into submitting a proposal to Unicode if you want to get a script encoded at Unicode. So you have to consider the Unicode Technical Committee, which is the primary decision-making body for the Unicode standard, and that is who reviews and votes on script proposals. So that is made up of the full voting members and partial voting members. And then you also have the script encoding working group, which is related to the script encoding initiative. A lot of people who do work with the script encoding initiative, they are the same people who are working on the script encoding working group. And the script encoding working group used to be called the Script Ad Hoc Committee. So you'll see that in like older documentation, but they've switched the name to Script Encoding Working Group now. So they're the people who review the new script proposals, whether the proposal gets sent directly to Unicode or to the script encoding initiative. I think it doesn't really matter. It's going to get sent to the script encoding working group. And it's composed of around 10 to 15 script experts, and they will evaluate the proposals based on need for encoding, community support and usage, and script stability and technical compliance. And so the proposal process, submitters initially provide detailed documentation using sort of pre-made Unicode templates. And then the script encoding working group provides feedback. And these revisions can take anywhere from months to years, depending on the type of proposal. If it's just if it's a proposal for an addition or an amendment to an existing script, it probably won't take that long. But if it's a completely new script, it's going to take anywhere from like 2 to 10 years. And I can talk about that later. Hopefully it won't take that long, but unfortunately it does sometimes. And so then, yeah, the UTC votes on the final adoption and assigns a Unicode version for publication. Some of the challenges and resource limitations are, limited technical support for proposal authors. Their existing guides are highly technical, and there aren't really very many existing guides. There's not very much written about this in general, which is why I sort of did what I did, because I wanted to sort of demystify the proposal process and like give people more information about what it really entailed. So as part of my research, I spoke with 10 experienced Unicode proposal authors. Um, I did this all in English and mostly over Zoom last year, and don't have this in there, but I had a few people who I had come across that I knew would be good to talk to, and then the rest of the people I asked Debbie Anderson at the Script and Coding Initiative if she could help me with some contacts of people, and so she helped me sort of finish this list of people to talk to. So I talked with people who had worked on multiple script proposals like over many years. So they were located all over in the US, Sweden, France, Canada, Indonesia, and Australia. They weren't just linguists. They were people working in natural language processing, typography for religious organizations, or in engineering. And total, out of the people that I talked to, they worked on 41 different script proposals. So that's quite a lot. Both full script proposals and additions and or amendments. So yeah, I've sort of divided my information gathered from my interviews into different themes. So I'm going to talk about background information, requirements for a script to proceed or to succeed, the proposal process, and then general experiences and advice from the people I interviewed. So I'm not going to go through all of these with you because it will take up a bit too much time, but I've put in bold sort of the ones that are the most important and the ones that inform this presentation the most. So after I asked them questions, like what script proposals have you worked on? I asked them things like roughly what are the main stages of the proposal process and how long can each stage take? Number 5, what role do local or regional or even national politics play in the promotion of a script? What kinds of resources did you use when preparing proposals? What were some of your positive or negative experiences of working with Unicode? What were the major obstacles that you had to overcome working with Unicode? What are best practices you would advise for engaging with Unicode and the Script Encoding Initiative? What were the major obstacles that you or the community had to overcome? And what are some best practices you would advise for working on Unicode proposals, or for the communities working on these proposals? And I also asked them things like, what are some changes that you would like to see in the proposal process? And so I'll talk about these later. So yeah, this is not, necessarily important for the proposal process, but I just wanted to show you this because it's quite interesting. So on the right, those are all of the scripts that the people that I spoke with worked on. So if you just want to, I won't read them off, but you can have a look. And I thought it was quite interesting that everyone that I spoke to sort of got involved with Unicode from like personal interest and like quite organically. So they and almost, I think actually all of them, their initial interest in whatever language they were working with that led them to work with Unicode, it was always an African language. And that might have something to do just with the fact that there are so many unencoded scripts in Africa. So yeah, their engagement started quite organically. Some examples of this are, studying Akkadian led one participant to question the lack of African scripts in Unicode. One person was learning Ethiopian for travel, and that sparked their interest. A type designer revived a dormant proposal and collaborated with stakeholders and then began working on more dormant proposals. And then someone working in natural language processing became involved after encountering an African script proposal. So yeah, if you have any question about specifically about some of these, you can ask me and I'll try to remember. Um, so yeah, going back to the proposal process. So as I said, it can vary in complexity and duration from anywhere from like 2 to 10 years for a full proposal. So the key stages are compiling a comprehensive character repertoire, regardless of whether this is historical or modern, engaging with the Unicode consortium and or the script encoding initiative as early as possible. Everyone that I spoke with was quite adamant that you should like get in contact with them as early as possible because they're going to provide you with a lot of help and support. Um, so yeah, prepare documentation and submit proposals to the script encoding working group. And then it will go through technical committee review and you'll have to, wait for this, not too long. They meet 4 to 5 times a year. And then, yeah, final publication it takes at least 2 years. That's like a best case scenario. So some of the challenges are describing script irregularities to non-linguists or the increasing community usage evidence requirements over the past 15 years. So what I mean by that is Unicode now are much more strict about seeing real usage of the script in the community than they previously were. So there are some scripts that were encoded maybe like 10 to 15 years ago that might not necessarily meet that benchmark now. So they are they're much more strict about that, and I can talk more about that later. And yeah, one participant even outlined a really detailed 8-step process for encoding a minority script that was really useful. I won't share it here, but I can share it with anybody who's interested. This one here. So one of the main things that I asked them was about the role of linguistic fit because I was quite interested, and in my dissertation in the section on dissemination and community acceptance, I look into the linguistic fit of a script and things like, is there a one-to-one grapheme to phoneme correspondence and things like this. And so there was quite like a varied response to this. So some believed that linguistic fit was quite irrelevant for Unicode actually, and said that usability and accurate rendering was key to acceptance. Some people said that linguistic evolution naturally resolved fit, with scripts adapting over time to serve the language needs, and that community consensus and practical usability are often more important than strict linguistic alignment in Unicode proposals. And it's true that in the existing documentation and in the proposal templates themselves, you don't have to provide information or sort of prove the linguistic fit of a script in the proposal. They don't ask about this. So some key points here are that scripts may evolve before reaching Unicode, but linguistic irregularities may persist. A script's linguistic fit can inform encoding decisions, but it's not always a requirement for acceptance. And yeah, some people believe that the irregularities in scripts become deeply integrated over time. And so they'll need to be considered and kept in Unicode encoding. So then, and this sort of goes back to my section on dissemination as well. The next section after linguistic, so that the dissemination chapter was split into linguistic fit, sociolinguistic fit, and institutional acceptance. So I asked them as well about the sociolinguistic situation. And they were quite emphatic that this is very like the most important aspect of acceptance or of showing community usage and acceptance. So they said that letters of support and evidence of usage across different domains and in education can be crucial for getting Unicode acceptance. And Unicode does really look for this. And in a lot of Unicode proposals, like when you review the documentation for a script, you will see lots of letters of support from like local organizations or educational institutions or even businesses. And you also need community consensus. So a script's acceptance can depend on its integration into broader societal contexts, such not just education, but also media and cultural activities. And there are post-colonial challenges to consider. For example, scripts like Odlum face resistance from elites in the community due to entrenched colonial legacies. So I can talk more about that later. So some key points are cultural identity and community usage are often more critical than strict orthographic standardization or linguistic fit. And variation in spelling may be inevitable, and ongoing debates over standardization are common. So it's important to keep this in mind. And social tools like literacy classes, publications, and even things such as healthcare information in a new script can aid in adoption and in the community's like acceptance and mentality about a script. So I think it was Wancho. They produced information about like clean water initiatives and prenatal health care in the script to try to get people to see its usability and practicality. Sorry, I haven't gone to the next one here. And then I talked to them about the role of politics, so about government policies and support. And there was an interesting example from the person that I spoke with that worked with with languages in Canada that use Canadian Aboriginal syllabics. So there is federal and provincial support for Indigenous languages, but challenges in ensuring government adoption of scripts in official contexts. There's conflict and competing proposals. So another example from someone that I spoke with was they were working on a script from Sudan, and the conflict in Sudan delayed the encoding of this script for a very long time. There can also be competing proposals, which people don't, I think, often think about. So there can be disagreements between groups, which can stall the Unicode encoding process. I did have a case study of this. So Tulu is a language spoken on the west coast of India, in Karnataka and Goa and Kerala. And it's an ancient script, and there were sort of two groups. It is an ancient script, and there was a group who was trying to get the like untouched ancient version of the script encoded at Unicode, and then there was also a group who was trying to get a more modern version of the script encoded, and they did not get along. Yeah, I can go into more detail about that, or I can answer questions about that, but that caused this proposal process to stall and to last for a very long time. So one of them actually did end up getting encoded after 10 years. And then the other one, it's still undecided of whether it's going to get integrated to the one that's already been encoded or if it's going to be encoded separately. And now, but that's been like 13 years since they originally started working on their proposal. So a very long time. And then we also have to consider yeah, political caution and ethnic identity. So some governments avoid promoting scripts to prevent fostering ethnic division or tribalism. This was particularly countries in like the west on the west coast of Africa, west coast of Africa, like Nigeria and Guinea. And then, yeah, post-colonial context as well. So governments often continue to support colonial languages to maintain the status quo. And then you have to consider grassroots versus national support. So yeah, many of these scripts rely on grassroots efforts and have little government backing. And technology and national level support are crucial for wide adoption, but are often lacking in post-colonial regions. Um, I thought this was quite interesting. I won't spend too much time on this, but so there's a diverse set of resources that you can use to prepare a script proposal. So there's traditional materials, which you would think of like manuscripts, documents, but modern sources such as newspapers, magazines, books, primers, any kind of learning material that you can get your hands on. And then, yeah, there might be case-specific resources for every language. Every language might have different set of resources. Then there are also historical and linguistic data. So historical records, such as records about the documentation of the language, manuscripts, testimonies, linguistic information about the language, and then expert consultation and fieldwork. This isn't always possible, but that's one of the things that a lot of the people I spoke with said, that not that they would like to see, improve, but they wish that there could be more field work done on a lot of scripts before they submit a proposal, but this isn't always possible. And then, yeah, other digitized manuscripts and material from private collections. Maybe there's a lot of material in the British Library. And then there were also some overlooked resources. The one that I found quite interesting, which someone said they used as a resource and as proof for the existence of the use for the proof of the usage of the script in the community, was gravestones. And then there's also bookkeeping records, yeah, personal letters, prayers. And this is the image on the right here is a handwritten prayer in Tongsa. And then, yeah, sort of finishing up now. So from what I gathered from everyone that I spoke with, when I asked them for like about the tips for success and the challenges they face, so they said that they emphasized real world usage and community involvement. So real examples of use, not just materials that were created solely for the proposal process. And like they can usually tell if this is the case, that you can't just like create a worksheet or something. You need to show lots of other material. Community collaboration, so active engagement with the community to ensure their representation and involvement. Promotion in local schools, and then proposal formatting and language. So they help with the presentation of the proposal, and they assist informants with presenting the necessary information. And yeah, because sometimes depending on the language, the people that they're working on, that they're working with, might have limited English proficiency. And yeah, to get familiar with the script properties and to be aware of specific properties of the script that can cause issues, and ensure that they are correctly represented. That you need to be prepared for the long haul, and that you need to remember that the proposal process is going to take a really long time, and that you might need to conduct extensive field work in order to understand the script to the enough to be able to submit a proposal. You need to consider technical considerations like feasibility checks. So determine what is technically possible for the script and communicate this clearly to the community. Demonstrate usage of the script, as I've said. Collaboration with authorities such as local language authorities and local community organizations. Another thing that people said was to study successful proposals, because there's a lot of other successful proposals from the past that that we can learn from. So for, yeah, I will. Okay, I'll go a bit quicker now. How much time do I have left?
Few minutes.
Okay, so yeah, I'll sort of speed through now. So yeah, in terms of positive and negative experiences, there were a lot of really great, positive experiences. Everyone emphasized the collaborative nature of Unicode and script encoding initiative, and that they have high levels of expertise and support, that great networking and resources, and great learning opportunities. And in terms of these aren't necessarily negative experiences, these are more challenges. So it's a slow process. There can be communication issues. The technical nature of the process can be very difficult to at the beginning. Personal commitment and time management. Most of these people, all of them actually, they are doing their regular day job and then working on these proposals. They're not getting paid for this work. No one that I spoke for had actually ever been paid for working on a proposal. Field work and isolated groups, it can be difficult to get field work in certain circumstances. Post-encoding challenges such as the development of fonts and keyboards, which a lot of people don't think of. Navigating Unicode resources can be tricky. So the general attitude was that, mostly everyone had positive experiences. There were only a few suggested changes. These were changes in the encoding criteria, the script amendment procedure to simplify it, suggestions for temporary encoding, which would allow for sort of testing out the script. And then, there were other Unicode adjoining suggestions like renaming ISO features, addressing offensive ISO language codes, which I can talk more about later. Let me just go on to the next one. So their positive experiences were the self-determination of working with the communities that they were working with, collaboration and community engagement. And some of the challenges were, resource limitations, conflicting opinions within the community, misconceptions about what Unicode is and how it works, which can be difficult to explain. And again, community engagement, and specifically managing declining interest, after a certain amount of time. And then, sort of to sum up, for best practices are to be open to feedback, collaborate widely, understand the community's perspective, prepare for the long haul, maintain post-encoding relationships, specifically for working on fonts and keyboards and material development, and to assist with practical applications. I think, this is just a summary of what I said, so I will finish it off there.